All right. So I'm going to throw my link one more time for those who just walked through the door of the slides for this so that you have it. There are links within them that will give you a lot of, actually they're gifts from me. In theory, I guess gifts from New Astrology Group, because the group and I are one in the same. It came from my Venus cycle, and here it is. We are all together. So as I said, this is our second annual New Year's Day Astrological Outlook. And for anybody who's brand new and doesn't know me, although I know most of you do, my name is Deborah Holiday, and I am an astrologer and a teacher and a speaker and a writer. And so this is a lot of my energy. It's what I do. I will say it's not what I do full time, although probably in a few years when I retire from my full-time job, this will become full-time. I am, as we just said, the founder and the organizer of this lovely group, which I absolutely adore. And there's a slide at the end of this presentation that you can go to that'll take you to more information about me if you have any interest in me or want to know anything about me. Other than that, I'm not going to take a ton of time to talk about myself because that's not what we're here for. Before I get started, I want to let you guys know a few kind of blanket things. One, all of the images on this slide presentation, I created with DALL-E 3. If you guys haven't dabbled in AI art, I greatly recommend it. I love doing AI art. I like doing art without the AI as well, but AI art is amazing. So as you look through these images and you wonder where you've seen them, they're all mine. I created them all. The charts that I'm going to be using on this, because I have charts for 95% of the things that we're going to be talking about, are all done on Solar Fire. And I've done them all in a natural chart, which is 0 Aries, so that no matter the timing, whatever the time zone is that you are in, whether you're in the United States, whether you're in a different country, because I know we had some people sign up from other countries as well, you can take them, and all you have to do is put them, rotate them so that they are laying on your ascendant, and that will line everything up for your personal chart. Also, all of the times on these charts are all Eastern time. I did them all here for Akron, Ohio. Okay, so if you're here in Akron or in this area, then these will all be right on shot for you. You won't even have to do much twisting and turning to them. I'm also going to say before I get started that all of the information in this are my own personal thoughts and kind of my own interpretations of what I see as being really valuable. There were a few transits that I think are valuable that I didn't include in this, and I'll probably briefly mention as we go through why I kind of didn't think that they were one of my highlights, although they might be as we get farther down the year. That I don't know. I also want to remind everybody, especially those that don't know me, that I look at life optimistically. I'm not afraid to look at the shadow aspects, but I have a tendency to look at things in a positive light because I believe that every challenge is for growth. And so therefore, there really isn't anything awful. It's all very positive. Are we looking at birth charts? You're going to want to look at your birth chart, and that way you can put the transits where they're going to be in your houses, Willow. Okay. All right. And then basically as this proceeds, which many of you already know, I want you to feel free to interact with each other in the chat because I have a lot of very knowledgeable people in this chat for astrology. I can already see that. I know some of you know as much as I do, if not more. And so feel free to talk to the others in the chat, to talk to each other. If you've got a question like Willow just did, throw it in the chat. If I see it, which I try to pay attention, but sometimes I get a little into what I'm talking about, I will try to answer it. If I don't answer it, you can hang on to it and I'll answer it at the end. Or one of you that knows the answer, just answer the question. And I'm also going to ask you as we go, if new people come in, feel free to share the slides with them so that they don't get lost if I'm explaining something that's in a slide and they are looking for a link that they don't have. Okay. All right. So with all of that stuff said, let's go. All right, so basically what I'm going to do is a little bit of exploration into the astrological trends and transits of 2024. Because we actually have some really transformative shifts happening this year. And we also have a few very rare celestial events occurring. So we've got some things happening here that are kind of, I think, giving us momentum for some really profound changes and opportunities, not only in personal growth, but in collective growth. So I think we're looking at a very growth-oriented year. And as I said, with growth comes challenge, but I'm going to try to look at it as where that challenge can take us in a positive direction. All right. I picked out things that I thought were significant. As I kind of drove through the year in my brain and looking at different things and looking at the months, seeing what was coming. And so these are what I thought was important. There may be things at the end that some of you guys know are important that I didn't come up with. Feel free to, when we get to the end, throw them out there and I would be more than happy. We can talk about them. All right. On the screen in front of you, you have kind of an overview of what we're going to look at. We're going to look at Pluto and its change into Aquarius, because this is kind of, we're going to make those moves now. You know, we're going to move in and he's going to be here. I mean, we just got a little bitty, teeny, tiny taste last year of what Pluto feels like in Aquarius. Just a tiny taste. And this year, you know, he's going to spend the first roughly 2/3 of the year in Aquarius. And then we're going to do that little retrograde again, but it's very brief, back into Capricorn for a hot second. And then we're going to pull out. And once we pull out the second time, we're done. We're just headed forward and it's all Aquarius all day for 20 years. So we're going to look at that energy. We're also going to look at Jupiter. Jupiter is like rocking and rolling this year. Jupiter is, of course, starting in Taurus, where it has been since May, but it's going to make a lot of connections on its way through. And I think that is going to give us some stability and some eternal growth before we move into that Gemini. Because when Taurus moves into Gemini in May, it's going to amplify our intellectual abilities, our curiosity, our communication. And, you know, historically, there are lots of things that have happened when you look at the Gemini Jupiter stuff that we want to look at. And then also peeking into next year, we've got a few things that are kind of finishing things this year that next year are going to become very important too. And a little bit of that is in Gemini with Uranus. We're going to look at the North Node conjuncting Chiron in Aries. I think this is a rare and wonderful opportunity for not just individual healing, but also for generational healing because of the Chiron effect there. We're going to look at the Mars retrograde. I think Mars retrograde, Mars in general has so much power this year. Mars is like rocking and shaking. He's like making connections with everything as he's going through. And then he gets to Leo and do the retrograde, and things just go wacky. And so you've got a lot of stuff there. And I think Mars is going to be really, I think Mars and the eclipses together are going to tell us a lot about in the United States, the election that we have coming at the end of the year. Because Mars is going to be very active during that period of time.
Mr.
Okay.
Damn it.
So we have all of that coming through. And then at the very end, I want to talk just a smidge about the other planetary retrogrades, because I think if you look at them, you see something that's going to be happening here that also shows kind of an idea of how this year is going to be navigated. Okay. All right. So let's dig in. We have, to start off with, like I said, Jupiter and Pluto are moving and shaking this year. I think they're very important to us. And, they're a large piece of this astrological landscape for 2024. And so we got a really important shift happening here with them. And that is we're going from earth to air. And I think that this shift is going to represent changes not only collectively, but personally. And I think we're going to be looking at things, in a very tangible and material way, and also moving out of where we've been in this tangible material stuff into more of an intellectual and social stuffs. I think that it's working on playing together. So you have to think about the things that Earth represents, and think about, because as I said in the beginning, I want you guys to think about where some of these things are lying within your chart. Because think about where Pluto is in your chart. Think about your personal Pluto and think about where it's been and all the time it's been in Capricorn. And think about where Aquarius is, where it's going to, where are you going to feel that transition? So you've got these things that are going to be coming to your forefront. You need to think about them as we go, and think about the elements. Think about this earth and think about this air. Okay. So we're looking at, with Pluto, we're kind of ending an era. Pluto has been very, very long time in Capricorn, in Earth, and it's been really a lot about transforming structures and authority and material ambitions. And I think that if you look at the time since 2008, if you roll it on back and you look in your life personally, think about how your life has been modified in that place of your chart. All right. Think about how power dynamics might have been reformed, how maybe some societal, well, we all know, you can see the societal shifts that have taken place in those years. And all that's Earth. But now we're moving into air. And air is very different than Earth. And so with this air, now that we're going into Aquarius, you're going to look at shifts into more intellectual and exploring things, more innovation. Think of Aquarius as how innovative it is. Think about how it's the collective consciousness. And when we think about that Aquarius energy, I automatically think of things being revolutionized, things being reformed, things being advanced, especially things that are technological and humanitarian. And when I say technological, I know the first thing that comes to all of our minds is AI. You guys know as well as I do that we're going to watch AI burst in the next 20 years. We probably have no fathom of understanding how much it's going to change. Even just technology in general, what we are doing is going to be so different, I'm sure, in 20 years than what we're doing now. And so you've got that energy that's just starting. We're just moving into that air. So think about all the things that air means, the importance of air in your chart. Like for me, I don't have much air. And so for the huge playmakers in the chart to be moving into air, for me, says that I'm going to be doing some really big stretching and some growing. Where if you are very airy, this might be an energy that you are more used to, but you're still going to have those significant transformations in that space in your chart. When you look at astrology in an overlook way, the most important things to look at when looking at an overlook point of view is our outer planets, because the personal planets are important but they move rather quickly, although, some are a little slower than others, but they move rather quickly. And so they are things that are constantly occurring in your life. They're personal things that are happening. Bang, 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 bang. Might last for a day, might last for a few days, might last for a week, maybe a month. But when you move from Jupiter out, you're looking at a year, You're looking at 2.5 years. You're looking at 7 years. You're looking at 14 years. You're looking at 20 years. And so you're able to see the more significant path of where your life is being directed to. So if you look at the direction in your chart that these transits are moving through, what area of your chart are they going through? Are they on the top of your chart? Are they on the bottom of your chart? Are they on the right side? Are they on the left side? Where are they? And think about what you have personally in that house. Do you have anything or an empty house? Are they going over angular houses, succedent houses, cadent houses? Think about where these big energies are coming from, and they're going to give you information about how your life is going to be moving forth in longer periods of time. And it should give you some really big ahas. Like if, and I'm hoping I do, if I remember greatly my Pluto square. I remember when I hit a Pluto square, my life changed. And if I live long enough, in another 20 some years, after it runs through Aquarius and pops itself into Pisces, I'm going to get to have a Pluto opposition. And if you were born between 1940 and 1960-ish with Pluto going into Aquarius, there's the chance that you in your life will wind up with a Pluto opposition. Think about that. That's a huge transformation. But the fascinating thing is, it's an opposition that I think, my personal belief, because I've given this some thought, thinking about what's going to happen to me in the future, how challenging a square is. And that's also if you've got Pluto coming up with a square, you can expect to be challenged. But I'm not sure the opposition is going to be quite as challenging as the square was, because the square was me being challenged, like, where with the opposition, it's more like it's a push-pull. It's like, okay, I've lived with this my whole life, but now I have to try to transform and add in some of what is in that opposition. So things just to think about, okay, as we kind of talk about this. All right, Jupiter is going to, right now it's in Taurus, which is in Earth. Gemini is in air. So right now where Jupiter is, we're looking at a very stable Jupiter, perhaps maybe a little too stable for Jupiter sometimes. I'm sure Jupiter doesn't mind being in Taurus because there are lots of things that it can affect, but it's going to be moving into Gemini, which is much more curious. It's we're going to have like that expansion from, like I said, when I think of Taurus, I think of security, being into sensuality and sensual experience, in your senses, material possessions, those kinds of things, food, anything that is a physical reality. It's a very grounding and building physical energy. And we're going to move out of that, and we're going to go into Gemini, which is when I think Gemini, I think intelligent. I think curious. I think communicating, talking. I think social interacting, social networking, all social things. And so when that Jupiter makes that shift into Gemini, we're going to be thinking quick. It's going to be versatile. Think about versatility. Maybe exchanging thoughts, exchanging ways to do things, finding ways to network to do things. I think Gemini is going to, when we go Jupiter and Gemini, I think we're going to expand our mental horizons. And I think you're going to have a lot more learning and connecting in that space in your chart. I think it's going to be knowledge. And I think there's also going to be a little bit of kind of embracing things that maybe are a little more diverse than what we have in the last year or two. I think we're going to want to to bring in that curiosity. We're going to want to bring things into us that stimulate us and make us whole in that space of your chart. And like I said, depending on what house it's in, you're looking at different areas and how it can shift things. All right, Pluto entering Aquarius. All right, so when we look at Pluto entering Aquarius, and we do have a speaker coming in February. Liv Woodford is coming, and she's going to speak on Pluto in Aquarius extensively. So if this is an area that really interests you, or if it's playing a heavy part in your chart, you definitely want to listen to Liv share her points of view, because she is going to do a really nice conversation about how it's going to affect the collective and what it might do to affect us energetically. So when we look at Pluto in Aquarius, like I said when we first started this, I see some global shifts. I don't think there's any way to get around it because of that energy. Aquarius is known for being innovative, for being progressive, for humanitarianism. It also represents kind of a collective consciousness, kind of a forward thinking about the humanity, the welfare of humanity as a whole. And so when you add Pluto to that, okay, and we just said what Aquarius means. Let's add Pluto. Think of Pluto, I think, my own personal point of view, I think transformation. I think power. I think really deep psychological insight. And so when it comes into Aquarius, I think that it's suggesting like really profound shifts in the collective mindset towards getting to things as it's there, because it's there for a long time. And this is like just the beginning progress of us starting to come together a little bit to learn to think about progressive and inclusive and innovative ways of thinking about things. Because remember, we've been very earthy, very grounded. Now we're going into that airy-ness. All right. When we look at the technological piece of Pluto in Aquarius, if you think about just Aquarius, without anything to do with Pluto, Aquarius is technology, it's scientific advancement, it's genius. It is astrology. Okay, it's got that astrology energy into it, with Uranus being the modern ruler. And so when we think about Pluto transforming that, what we're going to have groundbreaking technology. We know we are. There's no way around it. And I think that it's going to reshape how we interact digitally, how we interact, with AI. I think it's going to even alter maybe our understanding of science and the universe. Okay? I think it's going to pull our minds in ways we can't even imagine right now. And I think, as with all things, there's going to be some of it that is amazingly wonderful, and we will not be able to imagine how we ever lived without it. And then I think there are other pieces where we will look at them and we will feel very let down, because I think we will see that what can be very good may be used in some ways for not so good, that it may be used to confuse us or disillusion us or take us and put things in tenses that make them seem very real when they're not. So I think it's going to take us into a thing where there can be ethical considerations around all of this, that announcements, and there's going to be power dynamics, and there may be things that happen that may not all be good. But I think myself personally, I'm going to do my best to embrace the things that are good, like the AI art. I love it. but then as things come at me that maybe don't feel like the higher energy for me, I'm going to ignore those and step aside. I have to admit, I was one that refused to get a smartphone for eons. I was like, no, thank you. I don't need one. And then I finally gave in. But I think most of us have given in at this point. I think that's part of that whole, energy rolling through. Let's talk about with Pluto Aquarius, we've got this transformation in societal structure. All right. I think that we're going to have some system changing while Pluto is in Aquarius. I think you're going to watch some deconstruction and some transformation of the existing societal structures that we have. And I think this could be in a realm of areas. And I will say, as I speak of this, I am just going to very smoothly glance over this, because I know that we all have different opinions on politics, which I think is one of the areas of the economic things that we have going on, of social systems. I think all of those things are going to be deconstructed and transformed over the next 20-ish years. I think with it being Aquarius, we're probably going to be looking at things that are maybe a little more equal, maybe a little more community-based, maybe not. We also have to remember that within Aquarius is rebellion, Uranus, rebellion, reform. So we may see over this time that Pluto is in Aquarius, social movements aimed at reforming things that are outdated. I think that was one of the things that maybe we got from the time that Pluto was moving through Capricorn. It started bringing out things into the forefront that we could see perhaps needed to be updated. And so I think we're going to see some of that occur. I think we are going to look at just tons of innovation beyond AI. I think we're going to be looking in biotechnology, sustainable technology. I think technology is going to become more and more integrated into our everyday life, and it's going to work towards changing the way that we work, that we interact, and that we live, which it already has in some ways. I mean, think about just the little bit of time that Pluto was in Aquarius and AI popped out to everyone being able to see it. Just with that little tiny taste, we got in. Okay. So you've got that kind of stuff happening. And I also have to wonder if we're not going to see some international cooperation beginning to occur. I mean, you see all the things happening, and you see how some of the transits we have coming up in the very near future, some this year, but more 24, 25, even rolling a little bit into 26. We're looking at things that have the feasibility of there being conflict and disagreement, and just non-cooperation internationally. But I think this Pluto is going to be asking us to work on enhancing our connectedness within country, within society, within community, to kind of work more collaboratively on solving things versus instead of it being, well, this is me and this is you, kind of trying to get that connection, that Aquarius energy filtering in and transforming things. Okay. So I have the chart here of when Pluto is going to roll in for this year, for its first little stint. And we've got it January the 20th. And I pick the moment that we had them at 00. So this is when the sun is actually moving into Pluto, which, and I know that you guys all immediately, when you see January 20th, you also know that that is the inauguration day, which I think is interesting. And I'm just going to say that. I'm not going to add anything extra to that. But if you look at this chart and you look at the things that are going on in this chart, let's just take apart a few of the aspects. Okay, big one, Sun conjunct Pluto. I think that this is going to signify a really intensive focus on for us as individuals, personal power and transformation, wherever that's hitting us in our chart. I think it's bringing about that psychological insight, that deep insight for personal change to begin, which means this year things are beginning. This year is beginning. It has already begun. We have started off running. The last few years, we've started off with lots of things in retrograde and things moving kind of slowly. 2024, we are hitting the ground running. This is not a casual walk through the park and hum a melody kind of year. We are going to hit it hard and we are going to run. And I think this is kind of a dynamic that is pushing that forward. I think as individuals, we're going to experience some really dynamic changes, and we're going to have a really strong drive for that self-transformation and empowerment wherever this is in your chart. We also have, which I think is interesting, the moon is trining this. It's not exact, but it's close enough. Where I think that's going to throw into this mix some emotional depth. I think that's adding to that intuitiveness that we carry with the moon to help us understand what is being transformed with this Sun conjunct Pluto in our charts. All right. I actually think that it may kind of give us a helping hand, maybe ease us a little bit in the deep emotional and psychic kind of material that we're going to start processing, and kind of give us the insight to be willing to move forth with whatever's going on in our chart in that aspect. And we also have, which I think is interesting, Pluto is parallel Mercury, Venus, and Mars. And in astrology, a parallel is similar to, it's a harmonious interaction. I like to think of them as having kind of the energy of a conjunction. It's because it intensifies the planets that are involved. It kind of mixes them together into an energy. And so I think what this aspect is going to do, this Pluto parallel Mercury, Venus, Mars, is intensify mental, relational, and assertive power within us. I think that the Mercury is going to indicate give us a little bit of the ability to, with this transformative information, this transformative things that are going on, to communicate what we're thinking about. I think Venus is going to give us the ability to transform effects that it has on our relationships and our values. And I think Mars is going to throw in there a drive to make this happen, some action, some assertiveness. So when on this day when Pluto is moving into Aquarius and hitting the sun going into Aquarius, I think that you really want to look at this day and look where all these things are and listen and to your intuition and listen to what you've got going on, what it's bringing forth, because that is the energy that's going to tell you, just give you that idea of what the next 20 years is going to start bringing forth for you. All right. If we look at the second time that it comes, all right, because we're going to talk about when it retrogrades in Capricorn next, but this is, it's retrograded and now it's come back. All right. This is the chart on November the 19th when Pluto comes back, and now it's here. It's a done deal. We're here. There's no more going back. There's no more thinking that we're going to go somewhere else. We're in Aquarius now and Pluto's there, and this is the next 20 years. Okay. So this is that chart. And so if we look at the aspects here, this is a busy chart. There's a lot going on here. The last one, if you look at the last one, it was kind of simplistic. I mean, it was busy. There were some things happen, and definitely, but this one is like busy. So I'm trying to take it apart a little bit. All right. So if we look at the things that are aspecting Pluto, you've got the sun still in this mix, but now it's sextiling Pluto. Okay. So we know that with sextiles, that means that you've got something harmonious there, but it's not a freebie. You have to actually do something to get it. So I think that this could be representing maybe an opportunity for some kind of empowerment, or maybe a little bit of transformation and self-expression. This is giving you the chance to maybe harness like some personal power that you've got, wherever that is in your chart, and to make some kind of significant change in your life in whatever area is going to be related to your identity and the way you present yourself in that area. Okay. We've got the moon opposite Pluto. Okay. So it's not in that nice trine anymore. Now it's opposing it. So I think here, this is a little bit more of an intense emotional experience. I think that this is bringing up maybe some to surface, maybe some kind of deep feeling, maybe some kind of unconscious something that's going to lead you into some kind of emotional purging, or maybe some kind of revelation. Okay. We've got Mars with the moon down there opposing Pluto. Mars and Pluto make a lot of combinations as we go through these. You want to watch that. Another thing you want to look as we look at these charts, this is a year full of stelliums. This year, if you look at as the planets are moving, and in some, when we get to like the eclipse time, I mean, everything's starting to pile together, and it's like just stellium after stellium after stellium. And it just, as the year starts and we start rolling, you just start watching these things piling together. And that's an energy you want to watch, because as they pile together, that energy that they're offering intensifies. And you have to sit down and figure out who has more power here, you know, in the stelliums. But back to my Mars opposition. Sorry, when I thought of Mars, I went into my little stellium rant there. Mars opposite, in this part, I think we're looking at a dynamic between this transformative energy of Pluto and the assertiveness and the action of Mars. I think basically this could lead to maybe a little bit of maybe either a confrontation or a drive to change, some kind of strong desire that is going on with this, where this Pluto and this Mars is in your chart, that's going to be suggesting maybe examining within yourself what your motivations are for something that you're doing, and how you can make things have like a profound change on how you are going about getting to where you're going. Okay. We also have Pluto sextile the sun. I started that with that, but I'm going to come back to it again, because I think that is the most significant thing here, because that, I think, is where where the moon and the Mars are playing, because you've got them, Mars specifically, it's closer than, way closer than the moon would be, but you've got that little bit of trining going on with the sun. It's a pretty wide trine, but you've got energy. And so what I just said about Mars having that ability to maybe show you a way that you could go about asserting yourself is, yes, Carla, you've got it. Thank you. You're looking at that external and internal struggle, and with the sun and the moon, all these things playing with that Mars, and that Mars opposing, I think that we're looking at something here that you have something kind of shown again. I think when it comes in the beginning, it's going to give you a wah moment. And then when it hits this on the long run, now I think it's bringing back the, okay, this is what we're thinking. This is what's going on. I'm giving you, here's kind of a bit of a plan. Start moving forward. Okay. Now let's talk about let's go back. Let's talk about the retrograde here, because like I said, Pluto's going to retrograde for just a really brief point of time into Capricorn before it flies back out again. It's just a little tiny window here that we're going to go back. And so I think what is going to happen during this is, like I said, we know that Pluto was in Capricorn since 2008. And you know, because you can look back now, we have hindsight. You can look back at what Pluto has done to you, done to your life, done in that house in Capricorn. And it has definitely made changes. And so as it goes into that retrograde, we're going to want to take that last look at what happened. Use your hindsight, look at what happened, and reflect and revisit and reevaluate the actions and the decisions and the things that you did in those years. Okay. You don't want to go backwards because you can't. This is internal. This is when you want to understand the changes that have occurred for you in that time span. And you want to take that knowledge and you want to use it. Okay. You want to bring it forward. You want to make it have value. I think as a collective, we have learned lessons. Think about all the things we've experienced in all those years as a society. As a person, you have learned lessons. All right. And so you have to consider how those Capricorn themes have played out in your life, and ask yourself questions like, have I dealt with these responsibly? Have I dealt with these in a disciplined way? Have I done it with authority? Okay. And then make preparation. We're moving into Aquarius. So think about take that inner information, think that wisdom, take it. We're moving it forward now. These lessons are going to be crucial to you, because that shift from Capricorn to Aquarius, from earth to air, from structure to innovation, from tradition to revolution, you're going to take the lessons that you learned while Pluto was going through Capricorn, and that is going to lay the foundation for the changes that Aquarius is going to bring into your life. Okay. So think about that. Think about what you have gotten from this. Right? This is the chart of that day. Okay. We're looking at when we go retrograde, when Pluto backs back into Capricorn for the last time. And when we look at this, the thing that popped out to me, like immediately, I went, we've got two 29s, and we've got a 28 and a 28, which are not too far from being 29s. So you've got a lot of getting ready to change into a different sign. You've got that, that anoretic, that critical degree energy. And so I think if we look at these, we're looking at that saying that we've got something here that's critical, something that's potent, something that is culminating, something that is got some urgency to it, something that is going to lead us into a transition. Okay. So if we look at that Pluto, all right, it is marking for us a final push, that whatever you didn't do, if you were looking back at Capricorn in all those years and you've asked yourself the questions and you're going, I should have done this, I could have done that, do a final push. You've still got a minute to make that transformation. Okay. When we look at that Neptune at 29 degrees, okay, think about what Neptune is saying. Okay, Neptune is going to emphasize that spirituality, that creativity, that those themes of illusion that we have in Pisces. And so this could be a really significant point, wherever it is in your chart, for spiritual understanding, for artistic expression, for dealing with disillusionment. Where this is in your chart, you might have been disillusioned. Now is the time to deal with it. What disillusionment have you been experiencing for the last 14 years that Neptune has been in Pisces? That's what you need to think about. Bring it forward. All right, because we're transitioning. All right. And like I said, Mars is close. It's not quite, but even I think that Mars degree is important, because if you think about when Mars hits 29 Gemini, that's going to bring forth a culminating energy in communicating, in the way you communicate things, in something you've communicated, in some kind of decision you've made, in something intellectually that you've been pursuing. So think about where that's falling for you. And it should speak. And some to the side things happening in this chart. We've got Saturn at 16 degrees Pisces, and it's still retrograde. It's retrograde at the moment. And so at this point in the year, you're going to start seeing, actually, this is, I think, kind of the beginning of it. Up until this point in the year, most things are moving directly, or they are very shortly from now becoming direct. So we've got a lot of direct energy. I think that's why we're moving so fast as we come in. And when you get to September, we start getting a lot of retrograde energy rolling in. Retrograde, retrograde. And we know that that retrograde takes us from outward movement to inward. So you have to think about that, okay? We have to remember that we've got that movement happening for us. All right. And so when we look at that Pisces, think this would be a time for, because remember, when you've got that Saturn in Pisces, you're looking at introspectively things about spirituality, about the welfare of collective. And when I say collective, it could be family, could be community, could be the space that is most valuable to you, friendships. And you're also looking at creative boundaries within that. And so this might be a period of time when this retrograde is happening in Capricorn with Saturn in Pisces. It might give forth a little energy for you to do some reassessment of what your dreams are, your ideals, what structures you have that you are very compassionate about, because those might be giving you information of what's pushing you forth. Okay. All right. Let's talk about the North Node. On February the 19th, the North Node is going to conjunct Chiron. Uranus at 27 degrees. Hang on, Christine. Let me back up. I didn't see you until just then. All right. Uranus at 27 degrees. Yes. All right. That is down here. And again, we're getting ready, and it's stationary, which that means that, you know, you've got some things going on here. And remember, it has been in Gemini, and it's in retrograde, or well, preparing. It's backing up. And so as it backs up, what's it telling us? I think you're looking at, again, anytime you're at those very last degrees, you've spent a long time doing something. That energy is bringing forth something. Reflect. And see if there was anything that you could have done, you should have done, you would have done. Think of all the re's. And see if you need to grab onto something while it's there and bring it back when it goes back. Okay. All right, North Node. I think this is very important. I'm not sure if everyone does astrologically, but for me, I feel this. And I will say, I have a special relationship this year with Chiron because my Chiron is at the 29th degree of Pisces, which is where we were just talking about Neptune. Okay, so for me, I think Chiron is wide in my eyes. So for me, this came forth. And I'm guessing because I'm bringing it forth and you're listening to me, that this has probably got significance to you as well, because I've found that that's the way astrology works. Yes, Carla, mastery. I agree. The ending degrees are you are. It's bringing forth what you got out of what you did, and you're carrying that knowledge forward. All right. So when we look at North Node and Chiron, we've got a few things going on here. This is, I think, a very deep and important moment for transformative healing and karmic evolution. Okay. When I think of understanding this connection, I think North Node, which to me says life purpose, it says the direction that we're evolving to. It says that it's like a compass pointing us to where we grow the most. And it's about stepping into our potential and embracing the future and aligning with our true path. All right. When I think of Chiron, it's the wounded healer, okay, which says to me that Chiron is going to be the part of our chart. It's going to highlight where we're wounded, the deepest, and where we might carry things from our childhood or even a past life forth. It shows us where we are vulnerable, and it also shows us where we have a huge, immense potential to heal, not only ourselves, but other people as well. Okay. So when we look at this conjunction, I think that these two powerful energies coming together represents a really unique opportunity. It's giving us transformative healing. So it's going to call us to heal our deepest wound. It's like, it's reaching to us. It's saying, let's acknowledge our vulnerabilities. Let's understand them. And let's transform them into something that brings us strength and wisdom. I think it's karmic growth. I think this is a time, this brings forth a moment when that karmic cycle can be broken. And when this period is going to allow us to release our old patterns, especially ones that are no longer serving us in any way, and are probably even getting in our way of growing, and to start some kind of new healthy pattern that is going to move forward, going to start motion. I think it also is about reevaluating your life path. So remember, look at where this is falling in your chart. I think this conjunction is inviting us to look really closely at where we're headed and to answer questions like, are we aligned with our true purpose? Are we needing to make changes? Is this a time to reassess and make changes that are needed? Is it time to realign your soul's journey? It's I think saying things like embrace personal change. Wrap your arms around it. It might be challenging, but I think that it's giving us the opportunity to make significant personal change during this that will lead us to having a more profound personal development and evolution in our life. Thinking about it practically, I think that Personally, I'm thinking like this is a really good time to reflect and meditate. I'm thinking that this could be a time for really deep reflection on life's path, on what healing means to you, not what healing means to the collective, not what it means to the rest of the world. You, how do you define healing? This would be a moment to ask yourself that question. I think this would also be when you ask yourself that question, because there's so much possibility here for growth. Maybe we need to reach out for someone to help us. Maybe you can't do this yourself. Maybe you realize at this moment that you need some kind of counseling, or you need some kind of mentoring, or you need something. This is the moment where you need to go out and to seek and see what life is laying before you. I think this is a really good time when it would be powerful to, however you journal, because I know we all journal differently. Some people do it verbally. Some people write. Some people draw. I think this would be a really powerful tool for this moment to process the insight and the emotions that are coming through with this energy. And I think ultimately this is the moment where we need to be open to change. We have to embrace change, even if it's uncomfortable. That this is a moment that is saying, I am here to help you grow and evolve. Embrace me. Don't run from me. Don't be afraid of me. Embrace me. Okay. Let's look at the chart for that day. All right. So again, kind of a simple chart, but I like the simplicity of it. And notice I was talking about stelliums. We start seeing these stelliums appear now. We're going to have a large amount in the beginning of the year of the energy in the chart move into little Capricorn, lot Aquarius, lot Pisces, lot Aries, lot Taurus. You're going to see the stuff start piling into these houses and these signs. So think about where that is in your chart, because it's going to be heavily activated. All right. So when we are looking at this, I see a few things. Okay. I've already kind of teased out the conjunction, which here is exact at 4:06 p.m. on February the 19th. Okay. But we have a few other things going on here, which I think might be important. We have the stellium going on here. Although technically it's a stellium by sign, although we do have Pluto, Venus, and Mars coming in. And like I said, when I was speaking about Mars, you're going to watch Mars as he rolls through, and I did not focus on this, but you might want to bring it to your foresight as you're watching the year go through. You're going to see Mars hit every major thing it can. It's going to conjunct Pluto. It's going to come through and conjunct Saturn. It's going to come through and conjunct Neptune. It's going to come through. It's going to hit everything. Pluto's like on a path. And then it gets down to, which we are going to talk about in depth at the very end. It's going to come down into Cancer and Leo, and that's where it's going to retrograde. And that's where you want to look at your chart to see where that energy is. But on its way there, it's rocking and rolling, and it's hitting everything. So if we look at the area here that I just talked about in Aries. All right, so you've got your Venus. You've got your Venus, Pluto. Okay, that says transformation in relationships. You've got your Mars and Pluto. That's an intense drive for change. Okay, so if we patch mix those together and have them and ask the question, well, what does that have to do with Chiron and North Node? Think about that. I think we're looking with this energy in Aquarius that this is bringing forth with this Chiron North Node. I think it's amplifying understanding and expression of that healing journey. And I think that the Mars Pluto is giving you the ability to address and heal past wounds. I think that Venus is bringing forth using that transformative experience to, in a personal relationship way, to deal with healing. Personal relationship could be literally a relationship as in a partnership, could be family, could be friendships, could be marital, could be a variety. But you've got the possibility there of that energy. All right. We also have, with this, we've got Jupiter squaring Venus and Mars. Okay. So you've got the trine or the stellium up here, but then you come down here and you've got a square. And I'm thinking that perhaps what we might have with that square is tension in expansion. So I think that we've got tension going on because this moment in time, this moment is asking you to expand. It's asking you to let yourself be more healed than what you are. And so I think that this square is bringing about kind of challenges with balance in that intense emotion and those relational dynamics that are occurring during this. Okay. And I think we've also got this going on here. We've got the Sun, Saturn at the same time. I see that as a restructuring possibly of identity that goes along. And I think actually is a stabilizing influence to help us integrate this healing and this growth that is facilitated by this Chiron and North Node. Okay. So then we also have Uranus square Mercury in this moment, which I think could be, I'm going to call it an insightful disruption. I think this could be an energy that gives you like a sudden insight or brings in a sudden change or brings you freedom in a thinking pattern that aids in this healing process. And I think, of course, that opposition with the South Node is simply saying, it's underscoring the importance of letting go whatever past habit or wound you have and moving forward. Just let it go. Okay. All right. Let's talk about Jupiter. I'm going to spend a lot of time now, probably the next 20 minutes talking about Jupiter, because look at Jupiter. Jupiter's busy. It has many transits, but what I have considered the 5 key transits that it's going to make this year. We've got on the 20th of April, we've got Jupiter conjunct Uranus in Taurus. And I think that this is a very rare and dynamic aspect, and that it signals changes and opportunities in financial and physical things. So think material world, physical world. I think this could be, as you know, I'm optimistic, breakthroughs and unexpected growth. And I think that it's where we could have innovation that could lead to significant shifts on how we are viewed and how we manage our resources. Think about where this is falling in your chart. Okay. Think about where this is in your chart. All right. Then we can roll down here to the 23rd of May. We've got Jupiter sextile Neptune. I think when we get to this moment, we're looking at, this is harmonious. Like I said, you have to do a little work, but it's harmonious. I think this is going to foster within us spiritual growth, creativity, idealism. I think that this transit is going to encourage us to kind of blend optimism with intuition and to pursue compassion with being humane and goals that we have in that focused in humanity. And I don't mean humanity as in the world, although perhaps you have goals that would affect the entire world. When I think of humanity, it might be just our local humanity. It might be your community. It might be the people you work with. It might be your family, your friends. But I think in some way that it is going to bring forth the ability to explore spiritual and creative things within our life to help us pursue whatever goals we have in being compassionate towards others. Okay. We have Jupiter on May the 25th, jumping into Gemini. And I talked quite a bit about this in the beginning. We're going to look at it a little deeper in the chart. But I think that this is like I said, we're entering a phase, we're moving into air. This is intellectual, this is curiosity, this is communication. All right, it's learning, it's networking, it's embracing diversity, it's opening your mind and expanding your horizons to knowledge and to social connections that you have not done yet. Okay. Then we come over here, and we're swinging up here to the top. And then we have Jupiter trining Pluto. Okay. So when Jupiter trines Pluto, I think that this aspect is going to give us the opportunity for positive transformation and empowerment, especially in whatever areas we've got that are undergoing deep changes. All right. Think about the Chiron stuff we just talked about. Okay. It's a period where that growth and expansion, I think, are going to align, and you're going to be offered a chance to have that evolution, to bring that evolution forth. All right. So I think that Pluto is going to be very helpful to us in that realm. And then we have Jupiter squaring Saturn twice before the end of the year. And I think that in this transit, and we're going to dig in a little deeper in it, but I think when we look at Jupiter squaring Saturn, I think we're looking at a tension, because remember, we've got a challenge there. It's a tension between the need to grow and the need to have structure and responsibility. And I think that this is going to challenge us to find a balance between growth and practicality. And it's going to give you information about, perhaps even teach you something about how to manage your ambition and your resources responsibly. Okay. And I think that when you think about this, again, think about where this is falling in your chart. Where is Saturn transiting? What house and what planets? What about Jupiter? Because that's going to give you the information I don't have, because I'm not looking at your chart, that will tell us where you're needing to find that balance between growth and practicality. All right, let's look through our charts here of these moments for Jupiter. All right, so this is our Jupiter conjunct Uranus in Taurus. This is our chart for it. We've got April the 20th of 2024 at 10:28 p.m. So we've got the stellium party going on here. You guys all know that. We can see it. It's coming. It's moved. It's coming on around. Okay. When we look at the eclipses, you're going to see the energy here, and it's palpable. But let's talk about this one at the moment. So we've got Jupiter and it's got this expansive influence in Taurus. Okay, so we've got things happening here. All right, so Jupiter in Taurus, we've already talked about, is you're supposed to be focusing on abundance and prosperity and expanding things that are material, things that are physical, things that are financial, in the area that it is in your chart. All right. If we're looking at it optimistically, you could think of wealth creation, resource accumulation, things of that nature. All right. Now, when we look at Uranus in Taurus, which it's nearing its end. We're gonna next year have a new Uranus energy here, but we're bringing out the end here. And as we're coming down the final lines here for Uranus and Taurus, you've got, when you have Uranus and Taurus, you've got unexpected shifts. Remember, when we have Uranus, Uranus could be unexpected things. It could be changes that come out of nowhere, but it could also be a desire for freedom and rebellion. Okay, you have to always keep that in the back of mind. Most people, when you think of Uranus, they immediately think of the unexpectedness of Uranus. But you have to think about the fact that it's seeking freedom. Wherever Uranus is in your chart is usually where you want to be free. And so think about where Taurus is and where Uranus has been going, because it's been here now for a long time, almost 7 years. And so think about Uranus and Taurus. This is gonna, you could have had your usual comfort stability disrupted. You could have had this lead, though, to some kind of groundbreaking change in your life that might have created some physical difference for you. Perhaps finances, perhaps material things, perhaps increasing them or decreasing them, or the way you look at them. I can say all of the above for me. But this fell in my first house. So for me, it was in my face. For you, it might have been a little more subtle. Although some of you, I know your charts, and I know it was in your face. We have, with that Uranus in Taurus energy, you've got possible disruption of stability. Okay, so think about that. All right, you also have innovations or breakthroughs going on. So it could bring society, you know, as a society, or perhaps in some ways personally. It could affect financial things, financial technology, banking methods, investment strategies, the emergence of new kinds of currencies like digital currency. I'm sure our speaker next month, or well, actually this month, in a couple weeks, when we have Henry speak to us, he is going to dig into that. And I think that if you haven't watched the YouTube video that I shared, if you signed up for his, I would advise going and looking at his prediction for 2024. Very interesting. But you've got your personal finances and value systems could have changed during this time. You think about your definition of wealth and value. Has it changed? Think about your personal finances. How have they changed? Think about the environment and society, environmental, earthly things, conservative things, recycling things, sustainability things. They've changed. Okay. And so when we are looking at this, you're looking at shifts. It could be a society shifting more towards sustainability and ethical material consumption, but it could also be much more focused in that. So when we look at the aspects going on here, let's take this apart. Okay, so you've got, of course, Jupiter conjunct Uranus. This is our focal point of the day. And basically, this is kind of signifying, if we think about what these mean, you've got a blending of powerful growth with Jupiter and some kind of unexpected change or freedom or desire for freedom in Uranus, most likely in some kind of financial or material thing. And it's going to bring forth some kind of sudden something, some kind of growth, some kind of expansion, something unforeseen. Could be an innovation, could be a breakthrough, could be, depending on where it is in your chart, some manipulation of that. Okay. And thank you for the person who shared that. Aspects of Mars. Let's look at Mars in this mix, because Mars has that lovely sextile going on to this conjunction. Okay. So I think that this aspect is going to provide some dynamic and positive energy to go along with this conjunction to take action in whatever way you are experiencing that innovation and that expansive energy in your chart. I think it's going to support that Mars is supporting some kind of something bold, some kind of something new that is signified by the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. It's going to, I think, allow for implementation of whatever this thing is that's come forth in your chart, in the chart, in the societal chart. Right? We also have some aspects to Uranus going on here. And with this, that is, let's see. No, I just misspoke. We have some aspects with Saturn going on with this. We've got Saturn conjunct Mars. Okay, so you've got Saturn and Mars together, and you've got Neptune in that party too. And then Neptune is in opposition to the moon at this moment. Okay, so you've got kind of a big party going on there. So I'm going to break apart what it says to me. It might speak to you differently. But what I see when I see Saturn with Mars is structured discipline action. Okay. I see action that that might bring frustration if the action of whatever you're trying to make happen is restricted. But I also see it as a very grounding influence that gives you stability for that expansion and whatever the freedom or unpredictable thing that's going on because of that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction is occurring. All right. When I throw in Neptune to that mix, all right, although Neptune can introduce confusion or idealism in, the emotionality and the actions of this area, I think it also offers the potential of inspiring action, giving us the ability to have caution from being disillusioned or unrealistic in our expectations of whatever is coming forth. Okay, so I actually think there could be a play here of energy because they're all kind of blending together that gives us a little bit more support than hindrance. Okay. And the other thing I think isn't kind of just an interesting thing here is we've got the moon squaring the sun and trining the moon. We've got Pluto squaring the sun and trining the moon in this chart, which I think is interesting. Because that says to me, we've got transformation affecting your identity and your emotions. And so I think that this aspect is suggesting that the changes that come about because of Jupiter-Uranus could have a deep and lasting impact on personal identity and the emotional landscape. Okay, so I think overall, if you kind of smush this chart together and you look at all the pieces with trying to figure out what they're saying, I think it's painting a picture of a day that's going to have some kind of significant thing occur, a change, a growth, some kind of a transformative experience that most likely is going to be rooted some way in finance, in physical resources, or in personal value. Okay. All right. Let's look at Jupiter sextile Neptune on the 23rd of May. So this is almost the last hurrah for Jupiter. We talked a moment ago about Jupiter close to the last degree. Jupiter's at the 29th degree on this day. So think about what we were talking about when we were talking about, the critical anaretic degrees. So you've got this harmonious interaction going on between Jupiter and Neptune. And Venus is actually in the party too. All kind of playing together in a positive manner, requiring a little bit of effort, but not too much effort. What I see this painting, this chart, when I look at it, is a day that's rich in spiritual growth, creative expression, and really emotionally deep. This is a moment where dreams and intuition could be really powerful guides, and where, like, this energy of compassion, you actually have the moment to channel it and do something with it that's creative or romantic or spiritual. And that with Venus and Jupiter and Venus and the sun and Neptune all playing together here, that you've got layers of expanding and pleasure and light. And I actually think that this is a very auspicious day if you are looking at that energy of expansion and pleasure and adding light to your life. Where this is in your chart, see where that energy is drawing you, see where your intuition is telling you, because this is a day you want to speak to that. Okay. Yes, it's a full moon too. Yes. Yes. All right. So let me tease apart just a couple pieces here. All right. So beyond what I just talked about, we've got a few, I think I find them to be influential things happening on this day. All right. One, you've got the stellium power going on here. All right. Boundaries dissolved. Yes, Carla. We've got the stellium power going on here. All right. It's heavy. But look at the sun. It's with Jupiter, close to conjunct, which is an amplification of optimism, expansion, and growth, or at least opportunity to grow. All right. We've got Mars conjunct Chiron, darn close. It's within that tightness. So I'm thinking that depending on where this is for you, you might want to focus in on that energy, that healing energy that was started and came through when Chiron and that North Node got together and that action was put forth. Because I think that you could have healing of very assertive healing of old wounds being resolved. Okay. I think that it all falls together. All right. And then we have Jupiter entering Gemini. All right. And as you can see, it comes in with a wee bit of a stellium. It's following. Jupiter's kind of just following right on in with Venus and the sun. I think this is going to be a very special year for Geminis. So if you are a Gemini, remember that. I think that this is a very positive and transformative year. So I think looking at this overall, that because we dug into this a little bit, I think that this transit, the year that we have here, is going to create within us a thirst for knowledge and the ability to expand your intellectual horizon. And I can't repeat that enough. Gemini rising as well. And I think that it's a very excellent time this year for formal learning, like attending webinars and classes and universities and things, schools and things of that. But I also think it's very potent for informal learning, the learning that you do. When you seek insight or you seek knowledge on something, you don't necessarily have to be enrolling in something or learning something from another person. You may be learning things on your own. Knowledge may be coming to you in wherever it is in your chart. Okay. I think this is a relationship year. So you're going to be looking at the time that Jupiter is in Gemini for encouraging you to develop personal and professional relationships. And when you converse with people, they're going to be meaningful conversations. It's going to be an exchange. Even though you're not talking excessively to me at this moment, we're exchanging. I'm exchanging knowledge and I'm catching your exchanges. And I know at the end, some of you are going to exchange a lot with me, but we're exchanging, and it's going to get more and more intense as we go into this year. I also think that this is going to be an extremely potent time for us to gain knowledge from perspectives and viewpoints that are not our own. So when people offer you something that maybe is different than your opinion or alternative to how you would think about something, to consider it. You may not still agree with them once you've considered it, but I think it's important to consider it, because I think the understanding of the other viewpoint will either make you clarify what you truly believe or might bring you to finding some agreement with the viewpoint you didn't have in the past. All right. Jupiter trines Pluto, June the 2nd. All right. So like I said, I think this is a very positive thing. I think this is a very expansive and harmonizing period where, you know, this deep fundamental change that's growing within us, this personal growth, this self-improvement, this evolution is going to continue carrying forward. I think that it is, when Jupiter trines Pluto, I think it's bringing us opportunity for success. I would say have high ambitions, increase what goals you have, go for them. This is a moment to reach, see where it's at in your chart. Where is this? Reach for it, whatever is coming through. I think that there is potential here for material gain. I think that there might be an association with increased wealth in this transit, whether it's a career advancement or an investment or something. I think there's possibility here for financial growth, especially if this is in one of your wealth houses. Okay. Also, I see personal insight and evolution. Again, I think this Jupiter is offering you this philosophical, natural energy combining with Pluto's depth that's going to give us that ability to have insight, personal insight. I think it's a broadening of horizon. Think about how Jupiter is encouraging us to broaden our horizons, with Pluto offering transforming that horizon. So this is travel, publishing, education. If you've got a message, share it. That kind of energy. I think this is a breaking through energy. I think this is a barrier breaking energy, that this trine suggests a flow of energy that gives you the power to overcome obstacles and for things to become more easier in your life. Okay. I think of this as something that doesn't happen very often, almost never. And so because it doesn't happen very often, when it does happen, I think you have to realize that it's going to be something that's felt for more than just a moment. This is several weeks, several months. So this is an aspect that the timing can be very pivotal within a period of time. So look at the time falling before and after this and where things are for you. Okay. Okay, let's jump into the next one. We've got Jupiter square Saturn. Okay, this is our first one. This is August the 19th when it first hits. And I'm sure some of you remember, actually, I'm sure all of you remember, if you've been in astrology for a few years, the Great Conjunction of December the 21st of 2020. And this conjunction was important because it marked the closest apparent alignment of Jupiter and Saturn in nearly 400 years. And it was really observable in the night sky if you look for it. They were very close. They were very bright. This was very prominent. This conjunction in the past is the Christmas star, the Star of Bethlehem, those sorts of things. And it took place in Aquarius. Okay. So this Jupiter Saturn, that conjunction. So now we've got it started a cycle. And so now if you think about when we talk about the cycle, I'm always talking about the cycle of the moon. You know how you have your opening square, your opposition, your closing square. Well, Jupiter and Saturn have the energy here that this is like it's like the opening square of this cycle, this crisis of action cycle. And so when we look at the Jupiter square Saturn, you want to think about it being a significant astrological event where Jupiter and Saturn are forming a challenge coming degree. Okay, it's coming. We're moving into it. All right. And so when we get to this moment, because they won't come back together again until November 2nd of 2040. So you've got 20 years. So as the years pick, we're getting closer and closer and closer to this first square. All right. So we have here a beginning. There's a challenge here. Okay. So we know, if we look at this historically, let's look at it for a few seconds, just looking at the history of it. When Jupiter and Saturn are astrologically looked at, we call them social planets. They're interpersonal. And their conjunctions and their squares have really, really obvious things that appear in history. I've talked about them in past talks. We've gone into them pretty deeply. They also seem to have impacts societally and often politically. If you look at ancient civilizations, if you go back to ancient times, like when we were looking, if we go back to Babylonian times, Babylonian astrology, you're looking at the astrologers really closely monitoring this movement because they wanted to see when this occurred, because in their culture, this indicated either a rise or a fall of an empire, a change in leadership, some kind of economic prosperity or change in the economic prosperity. Okay. And then if you come forward more, let's go to the Renaissance period. Let's look at Kepler and Lilly. They wrote about how the Jupiter square Saturn was believed to be when you had insights on the fates of nations and individuals. Okay. So coming forth to modern times, to us, when we look at Jupiter square Saturn, we're looking at a challenging aspect that can signify tension between expansion and restriction. Okay. And so it's going to correspond to economic and political instability because there's desire for growth and progress with Jupiter, but it's clashing with the need for structure and discipline, which is Saturn. All right. So if you look at the things that it could affect for us, we're looking at economic cycles. If you look at financial astrology, financial astrologers going to say that this could indicate economic downturns, recessions, significant shifts in financial markets. If you look at it from a mundane political social way, you're looking at it showing challenge in systems, in structures, symbolizing a struggle between tradition and innovation. Okay. If we look at it personally, on a personal level, if you have this in your natal chart, it shows period of tension and growth in those areas of life. All right. So it can be a time of reevaluating really long-term goals and making adjustments to them. Okay. So when we look at this, if you look at this chart, it's not too busy, but it's still busy enough. We are coming to the point where some of these stelliums that were all piled, everything was all piled together, the planets are starting to separate out again, which is nice. You've got Saturn is opposite Venus in this chart, which I think suggests a tension in areas related to relationships, values, finances, those kinds of things. There might be a feeling of restriction or seriousness in these areas that are trying to find a balance between being responsible and having pleasure. You've got Saturn squaring Mars in this. And I think that is a challenging aspect that could maybe indicate some kind of frustration or obstacle in an action or an initiative going on. I would say that this is a time when you want to have patience and discipline to overcome whatever challenges or delays are being laid in front of you. And then if we look at the Jupiter aspects, we've got Jupiter squaring Venus, which I think kind of brings forth a tendency for being maybe a little overindulgent or unrealistic in love or finances. It's a time that's really asking you to be moderate and very careful with relationships and resources. If you look at Jupiter conjunct Mars together there, that usually would mean a surge of energy and enthusiasm and drive. So I would say that is actually telling us that this is a good time to be decisive about something that might require maybe a little more courage or initiative. But, and I say this is a big but you have to be careful because there's the risk there of being overconfident or taking on too much at that moment. Okay. And so if you look at this day overall, I think we're looking at kind of balancing expansion and discipline. We may have a little tension going on between relationships and finances, but I think this is a time where if you channel it effectively and you avoid overextension or conflict, that there could be action and initiative built into it. Okay. All right. And then we've got our second one. All right. The energy's changed here a little bit. You can see some things have moved around. All right. So you've still got some of the same underlying energy here because you've got this square, still highlighting this, the expansion up abundance versus discipline, structure, stability. Got a balance here to kind of figure out how it's going. But the things that are noteworthy, let's take this chart apart. We've got Mercury opposite Jupiter. So you've got Mercury over here, and it's in opposition to Jupiter, and it's squaring Saturn. So we've got an energy here that you've got communication and you've got thinking. Perhaps over optimistic, or maybe it might be meeting some kind of practical hurdle at time. And the importance there in the balance big idea, we've got to do it with realistic. So you have to really plan and have really patience. Yeah. Right. We also have Saturn having an interaction here with Chiron. I think there's a thing going on here. And I think that it's a time old wounds that's going to come forward. And you're going to have mature and disciplined when you look at how you're going to understand this and heal this. Okay. And I think at the same time, we've got that parallel energy. We've got Pluto and the sun sharing a parallel, which again is a harmonious exchange that's giving us like there's some kind of deep-seated change in something core within you that's being highlighted. And so it's a really powerful time if you can see how that is all forming in this day to offer you some insight for transformation and empowerment. All right, Mars retrograde. Mars, like I said, clicks along and hits everything. And then it goes through Cancer, which, it doesn't really like Cancer all that much. And then it heads into Leo, but it doesn't get very far into Leo. And then we go into retrograde and it backs it on up. And you can see it's in retrograde for a while. It's going to go into the new year in retrograde. So if we look at this, when Mars is in Leo, it's kind of bold and it's pretty expressive. I think that it shows a period where we're like, when we look at this retrograde, we're going to be reevaluating how we assert ourselves in areas of passion and individuality, or how we're expressing our individuality. And I think this motion of Mars going backwards in Leo and Cancer is going to offer that introspection, because remember, we're looking inside now, about what we desire, about what we want to be creative with, wherever this is falling in our houses, and about how we can have leadership in that space. Right? So when it goes backwards, when you think about Cancer, and it goes into Cancer on January the 6th, we're looking at next year. We're looking at Cancer being very nurturing and very protective. And so when it makes this shift, that inward focus is going to be reflecting on emotional security, things to do with your family, things that you need to shore up for yourself foundationally, your foundational needs. And so I would encourage when it's in the Cancer piece of the retrograde to reconsider how you nurture yourself and other people and how you respond to emotional challenges. Okay. And then it's going to conclude that retrograde and then head on back through Cancer and then into Leo. Once it starts heading back out, once we've hit that mark on the 23rd and we start moving forward, I want you to look at this period and think back, because it's going to be a period where you could have had some healing of some old wounds if you took the knowledge you gained when it was still in Mars in Leo and thought about what you desire, what is creative for you, what leadership you need to take. You want to think about and look at what it's healed in you, what kind of strength you've gained emotionally, how maybe you've made some peace with something in the past, and you're going to come out of this time with a renewed sense of emotional strength and clarity about what you need, your personal needs, and your protective instincts. Okay, so you're going to learn about where Cancer is for you and what's in Cancer. All right, if we look at the charts, this one is when it starts retrograde, it's stationed, and it's getting ready to head back. And this is when it stops and stations and starts to head forward. So it's going to go into retrograde at 6 degrees Leo. And it's going to go all the way back to 17 degrees of Cancer before it turns around and comes back again. So remember too, whatever you've got in this part of your chart, in these degrees, it's going to hit them coming through. It's going to hit them when it backs up, and it's going to hit them when it goes forward again. So if you've got something here, watch, think, use this introspection to recalibrate what's going on in this space in your chart. I think overall, if we pile it all together, when we look at these, I think you're looking at internal growth and reassessment. I think you're looking at integration of assertiveness and sensitivity. I think that's an important part of this, because I think this is encouraging, integrating that assertive Leo energy with that sensitive Cancer energy. And so it's going to lead you to being more balanced in your personal and emotional realms, wherever this is for you. All right. Like I said, a lot of internal growth is going to happen here. So as this is happening, just remember, it's a time for healing, rethinking, approaching matters of the heart and the home. Because remember that Leo is that heart energy and Cancer is our home energy. So you've got our heart and our home. And it's going to, when it moves forward, after hitting these multiple times, give you greater emotional maturity and understanding. Right? So as we go through them, you need to remember that. All right, let's look at our eclipses. I'm coming down the final line here. We're almost to the end stretch. So when we look at the eclipses, we have something very wonderful occurring here in the United States, especially here in Northeast Ohio, if you're in our area. When we have the total solar eclipse in Aries on April the 8th, we are going to be in it. It's going to be right above us, consuming us. We as a group do have a celebration happening here. I have rented an outdoor facility. So if you are in this area and you are going, I would love to have you join us on that day. I refuse to work that day. I'm coming and I'm bringing in the solar energy. I think this eclipse is very pivotal. If you are somewhere else, I am, and I'm throwing this out here for all the world to know. So maybe one of you would like to step up. I would like to make it a hybrid, which means if somebody's willing to be online while I'm going back and forth between us watching it online and us being participatory in person, I would love if one of you want to step forward, feel free to email me or reach out to me. I would love to work with you to help set that up if you want to be the so-called co-host on that hybrid, because I want to do a hybrid, but I know I can't do both of them at the same time. All right, with that commercial, let's talk about this. All right, so we've got the solar eclipses that we have in 2024. We've got our first cycle here, which is the lunar eclipse in Libra on March the 25th. And then we have the solar eclipse in Aries on April the 8th. And then the second one at the end of the year is going to be Pisces in September 17th. That's our lunar. And then the solar is going to be in Libra on October the 2nd. Okay, so with that said, I'm going to talk about the solar eclipses, and then I'm going to talk about the lunar eclipses. And then we're going to look at charts for each set. So our solar eclipses, I think the total eclipse in April is, I think, the most notable eclipse of the year. All right. It is total, and it's going to pass through North America, and it's going to actually, I know there are many of you who remember the 2017. It went this way across America. It went, basically from the South Florida-ish up towards Washington-ish. This one's going the opposite direction. We're going down from, Arizona corner all the way up through and above us, across us, and up towards the upper corner of the United States. So it's creating that X. It's covering us on the opposite sections where it did when we had the one in 2017. When we look at this eclipse, we are looking at an event here locally. It's been over 100 years since it happened here in the Ohio area, in Akron, Northeast Ohio area. I believe, if one of you know, correct me if I'm wrong. My brain is trying to pull it, but I think it was in like 1896, 1897. I might be a little off with that, but I know I'm darn close. And the next one does not occur until 2099. So this literally is a once in the lifetime experience here in Northeast Ohio. Okay. The one that's coming in the fall is an annular eclipse, which that is what they call it's the annular eclipse is when the moon covers the sun, but it leaves the edges. So you get that fire around the moon. And this one is going to be visible mostly in South America, the second one. It is on the website right now, the live one. If you go on to Meetup, you can see the live event to sign up for. And then I'm going to start probably in the mid-March, beginning of March, sending out emails, giving you more and more information about the exact location and everything. And if someone steps forth and is willing to do a hybrid, I will put that one up automatically. And that way people will have the ability to sign up for the hybrid or the live. You will have the choice. Actually, I'll make it. Yeah, I guess I'll call it a hybrid because it'll be both. But just so you have those pieces. So our lunar eclipses, we've got the one in March is penumbral. And when we have the penumbral eclipses, the moon passes through the Earth's penumbral shadow. So this kind of eclipse is usually kind of subtle. And it's kind of hard to observe because the moon really just very slightly darkens. It is going to be visible, though, for most of North America, the Pacific Ocean, and East Asia. Okay, so people will be able to see it, but it's going to be really slight. And then the second in the fall, the lunar eclipse is going to be a partial lunar eclipse. So when we have a partial lunar eclipse, only part of the moon enters the umbral shadow of the Earth, which causes only part of the moon to darken. And this one is going to be visible from anywhere within the Pacific Ocean, anywhere in Australia and Asia, and in North America. So we should be able to see this as well. And I will say, I think these eclipses, actually, I know, if we look at it historically, that these eclipses are going to be tied to the events here in the United States that are going to happen at the end of the year politically. I can almost guarantee it. All right, so let's take a quick look at and talk a little deeper about what's going on in our charts here. All right, so remember, when we have our lunar eclipses, they're releases. When we have our solar eclipses, they're initiations. Okay, so this lunar eclipse in March on the 25th is releasing something. All right, so we've got our sun opposing our moon. All right. And with that, you've got, the dynamics going on that between the sun and the moon. So between conscious awareness and emotional awareness. And I think it's going to symbolize some kind of significant culmination of something in your life. All right. It may be an emotional kind of period for you. You could become maybe more aware of some kind of imbalance that you have between your inner world and your outer world. Definitely a time for self-reflection and letting go of what isn't serving you. You're going to want to find a balance between your personal desires, which is your sun, and your emotional needs, which is that moon. All right. So your desires and your needs need to find a balance. And remember, this is a releasing aspect. All right. So let's talk about a few of the other things that are happening in this chart. So we've got Sun conjunct Neptune in this chart. So with Sun conjunct Neptune, and they're separating, I think we're looking at this adding a little bit of dreaminess and maybe a little bit of spirituality to this eclipse. I think that this is going to offer a little bit of heightened intuition and creativity to this event. Although I'm going to say, because we've got Neptune there, it could lead to a little bit of confusion or idealizing things. I think it's going to encourage us to explore our spiritual side, and I would say definitely pay attention during this time to your dreams and your intuition. Whatever your inner guidance is saying, I would listen, because this aspect is going to kind of dissolve boundaries and connections that you have within you of the more mystical type. So you should get some intuition that perhaps is new. Maybe it's giving you the information of what you need to release and setting you up for what you were going to be talking about you bringing in. Okay. Now, in this chart, we have this crazy stellium stuff going on. Look at this. You've got Pisces and Aries on fire, which goes with what I just said. It's a time of having connection with what's within you, with that spirituality, and being able to bring it forth to do something with it. All right, you've got that energy coming forth. All right, so if we look at the Sun conjunct Neptune, I said very powerful. And then you've got your moon at the same time trining Pluto. All right, so I think with this one, it gives you the ability to kind of tap in to your emotional strength, your inner strength, and help you make those emotional changes that you need to make. And I think that it's going to be promoting emotional healing and empowerment and understanding. It's going to bring that transformation and that ability for you to understand what that inside is saying, what your heart is speaking. All right. Now, if we look at the other side of this eclipse cycle, we're looking at our total eclipse on April the 8th. We've got our sun conjunct our moon. And so with this, you're looking at that energy symbolizing something that's fresh. It's a new start. It's a new beginning. It's a new time of clarity, of self-discovery. This is a time to set new intentions in your life. That sun and that moon are going to work together to give you some kind of harmony with your conscious goals. Whatever that goal is and that emotional need is, you're coming together here, and it's going to give you the power to come out. Now let's look at some of the other things we've got happening here. You've got your sun conjunct Mercury, 5 degree, it's separating. Your conjunction there, I think, is talking about how it's going to enhance our communication and our intellectual clarity during this eclipse. Okay, so this is a time where it's excellent for thinking things through clearly, for making plans, for expressing your ideas. It's going to give you a sharp mind and your ability to say what you're thinking. All right. And then you've got Sun with Chiron there with no separation. Bam. All right. You are looking at, with that, all right, there's a little separation, but it's close. Your sun and your Chiron, I think, playing together are giving us an opportunity. Again, that energy is flowing to address old wounds and gain insight into what your vulnerabilities are. All right. We've got the sun opposing your south node, which is releasing old patterns, karmic baggage. This eclipse is inviting us to let go of what is not serving us and to do that growth. Okay. We've got Venus conjunct Neptune. Although it's not directly aspecting this sun and this moon, I think that it's going to bring a sense of romantic idealism and heightened creativity to this eclipse. I think it's encouraging us to really connect with our artistic and our compassionate side. Okay. I think if we look at this solar eclipse in a totality kind of thing, I think you're looking at something beginning, something profound. And I think you're going to have the ability to clearly communicate and to have some healing and have some self-discovery to go with it. Intentions, yes. Intentions for your future. Intentions to address anything that you have wounded. Intentions to embrace whatever intellectually and emotionally you're bringing forth. And I think that the aspects to this are only giving us more conscious ability to make goals and to bring everything forth with that clear thinking and that creative expression. Okay, here's our second set of eclipses. All right, we've got September the 17th. All right, if we look at this one, we've got some pile up still here a little bit, but most things are starting to separate out. Like I said, that energy of compression has kind of left us at the beginning of September, and things are starting to go out. Also, look at the things that are retrograde and stationary at this point. We've got a lot of that happening. So with this lunar eclipse, we've got, of course, our sun opposite our moon. And with that, I think we're getting, like I said, again, it's a culmination and a balance. So I think this is telling us we need to have equilibrium within our conscious desires, the sun, and our emotions and instincts, which is where our moon is. And that this is bringing kind of a clarity and an insight to our emotional needs and our relationships. So again, look where this is falling on your chart. Remember, next year, not this year, next year, when we have our nodes move, this is where they're going to be going into. We're going to wind up with our north node in Pisces and our south node in Virgo. So think about that when you think about this lunar eclipse, because it's giving us a little bit of flavor into what you're going to be working on at that moment when we head into those new nodal transitions. We've got the sun trine Uranus in this chart for this lunar eclipse. And I think for that, we're looking at a need for us it's encouraging us to embrace our individuality and be really open to unconventional thoughts. All right. We've got the sun opposite Neptune in this chart, which again, I think that Neptune is going to give us some confusion and illusion and some heightened sensitivity going on during this. And I think that it's crucial that at this moment, you're really cautious of being deceived, because I think there could be that deception, that unrealistic expectation that goes with this second lunar eclipse that fogs things a little bit. I think you have to really work on maintaining clarity in goals and intentions at this time. We've got sun trine Pluto, all right, which we know is favorable. It may give us a feeling of maybe being a little more confident, a little more capable in making positive changes in our life. I think this is going to be a time, and I think the moon opposing the sun indicates that it's a time when our emotional needs need to come forth, and you need to gain insight into your relationships and your personal desires, where this is falling in your chart. You've got our moon sextiling Uranus in this chart. I think that is reminding us, encouraging us to embrace that change and explore emotional experiences. That if you have new emotional experiences, that it could be a very liberating emotionally to go with it, to feel it. You've got the moon and Neptune darn close. They would have conjuncted just a little bit before that. I think that's a very heightened emotional sensitivity and intuition going on there. So again, you probably are going to be having some very vivid dreams, and your subconscious might be working. So be prepared and be open. Overall, I think if we kind of look at that second lunar eclipse in a nutshell, we're looking at the need to balance conscious desires with emotional needs again, but we're looking at it being emotionally liberating, heightened intuition, some transformation, a time when you get some clarity on your path forward, and maybe a little energy to make some positive change. And then when we hit the solar eclipse, the second one, the annular one, I think with that one, I think we are looking at a few things. Let's see. I would say first, we've got the Sun square Mars in this one, which I think is important. We've got your Sun square Mars, which I think is going to bring that attention to this one. I think you're going to feel the need to assert yourself, make some kind of decision towards a goal, and you have to be very mindful of there could be possible conflict or some kind of just frustration, and you need to really work on channeling the energy that you're bringing forth. Be very mindful to make sure that you try to make it constructive. Okay. We have, let's see, the moon square Mars in this chart, which I think is similar to that Sun square Mars energy. I think emotions could be running high in this period of time. You need to try to find those healthy outlets for your frustrations. We have the Mercury and Sun working together. I think for that, you're looking at a good mental clarity and communication. I think it's a good time for expressing your thoughts and your ideas. You've got Venus trining Mars, which is, pretty harmonious. That means, there could be a balance between what you desire and what you want to attract. So it could be a very favorable time for social interactions, possibly romantic connections, depending on where it's laying in your chart. If it's in one of your relationship houses, I definitely be looking at that. You've got, what else do we have here that's significant? You've got Chiron squaring Mars, which you could be thinking about old wounds and how you're really working on healing, but thinking about it in an assertive way. Reminding yourself that it's time to let go of things in the past that hurt and to be self-confident. I think that Chiron square Mars is about self-confidence at this time. So putting it in a nutshell, I think that our second solar eclipse is emphasizing taking assertion and being confident in the goals that you're taking towards goals that you've set for yourself karmically, and looking at long-term purpose. I think it's harmonious because we've got Venus and Mars and Saturn and Venus and Jupiter and Mars kind of working positively for relationships and creativity and personal growth. So I don't think it's necessarily bad, but I think it's a solar eclipse that's going to pushing you forward in personal growth, relationships, those kinds of things. All right. Mercury retrogrades. Our Mercury retrogrades, we have sort of 4 of them. We have the first one, which ended, Mercury went direct today. So we've got that. And then we have one in April, we have one in August, and then we have another that starts at the end of November and goes through the middle of December. The big thing here is we've got another focus on element shift. We've got earth to fire. Think about what that means. Earth to fire. So we're going from very grounded earthiness to going to something that is more adventurous, more direct, more initiating. So if we look at the one we've just gone through, that we've just turned direct on, that we're going to kind of roll through some things that we've just hit while it's been in there. I think that the retrograde we've gone through right now, I think this marks a shift from the grounded earth sign of Capricorn to the adventurous, fiery Sagittarius. I think that it's inviting us to reflect on our goals and our beliefs and anything that we have found recently that we are very enthusiastic and optimistic about. I think that although communication might have slowed down during this time, that it gave us the ability for our inner wisdom to kind of flourish. And so I'm guessing that we're going to see some revelations come through here as we go back direct through what we've passed back through. When we get to the one in April, this is all in fire. It's in Aries. It's all fire. So I think that when we look at this one, I think as Mercury is retracing its steps in the fire sign of Aries, I think we're looking at our assertiveness and our communication style being front and center. Think about where this is falling in your chart. All right. Think about where Aries is for you. I think this retrograde is encouraging us to think before we act and speak boldly. All right. So it's asking you to think before you do something. But it's also giving us an opportunity to refine our leadership skills during that time so that we ensure as we come out of it that our words are going to align with our passion, so that when you move forward again, when you act and you speak and you do it boldly, it's going to be very aligned with what intention you're trying to bring forth. When we look at the one in August, it's Virgo Leo. So we're looking at earth backing into fire. So with this one, you've got that Virgo being the earth, a very precise in comparison to Leo's fiery expression. And so this is like a phase of, it's encouraging us to pay close detail, pay attention to details wherever this is in your chart, while confidently showcasing what you have creatively in what you've done in your projects, in your work, in your arts, and your personality, right? And it's a time to really let that inner fire shine through doing something meticulous in your craft, whatever that craft is. During this time, you have the ability to create something amazing, wherever this is for you. And in that creating of the amazing, you're going to shine. And so this is a time, if you've got something you really want to have that detail in, to work on it during that period of time. We've got Mercury retrograde, Sagittarius, so it's back in fire again, the end of November to the middle of December. So as this 2024 is going to close, Mercury is going to revisit the fire sign of Sagittarius. And it's going to, I think, ignite within us our sense of adventure and that higher knowledge. And I think that during this retrograde phase, that it's going to have us reconsidering things that we've done educationally, especially thinking about that we've got Jupiter in Gemini. It's going to have us thinking about our expanded worldview, thinking about exploring or re-exploring possibly the psychological beliefs that we have, and really seeking some kind of higher truth or knowledge or philosophy with that fire enthusiasm built into it. So I think that it's a very powerful ending. We also want to think about the fact that this is going to be a period that is important to the United States because it's falling in that area of, the political arena again. I think if we look at the Mercury retrogrades overall in 2024, I think they're going to bring what they always bring, communication challenges. But I think it's also going to give us the ability to harness that shift from that stable earth energy to that passionate fire energy. So we're going to be going, we're going to be, I think, moving a little away from what's stable in those spaces to having more passion and more inspiration within us. All right, and I've come to the end here almost. This is it. So these are the planetary retrogrades of 2024. And I think that I'm going to reflect on these. I thought it was important to put these at the end because, as I said, we see a year that starts with speed and with vigor. I mean, we're rocking and we're rolling. And then it's going to gradually, in September, start slowly slowing down. And it's going to give us time and space to kind of go introspectively and look at the transformation and the growth and the things that we have been having that speed and vigor as we rolled through at the beginning of the year. It's going to let you kind of reflect and kind of figure out what we have going. Okay. So Venus is direct all year long. Whoop, whoop. Especially if you have Venus as a ruling for your chart. So we're looking at, with it being direct through 2024, we're going to have stability when it comes to our values and our relationships. It's not going to give us some wild, rocky ride this year like it did last. Jupiter's retrograde starts in October on the 9th and goes all the way through the beginning of next year. So when we're looking at Jupiter retrograding in Gemini, I think it's inviting us to revisit that little bit of expansion that we've picked up. We've probably, as Gemini, as Jupiter rolled into Gemini, we made those expansive plans. We started seeking that knowledge from within or from others. And now it's pulling it in. It's going, okay, look at what plans you have for yourself. Look at the knowledge that you have within you. And I think it's a period where you're going to have some deep learning and exploration on how I perceive things. I think we're going to be looking at those diverse perspectives that are being brought forth to us. Saturn retrogrades from June 29th to November 15th. I think that it's retrograding in Pisces. I think that it is urging us to basically confront our responsibilities and our spiritual growth. I think that this is going to be a time to dissolve old and rebuild new foundational things in a place of wisdom. So you're building things from wisdom during this period of time. Uranus is going to be in retrograde. Well, it's currently in retrograde. It's going to stay in retrograde until the 27th of January. And then it's going to go back in retrograde on September 1st and stay there for the rest of the year until the end of January in 2025. And I think what this says is that this is giving us a little bit of a chance to look at the challenges that we have gained or experienced in redefining our values and also embracing what innovation has changed in our lives during the Uranus cycle. So we're almost like bringing within what we've learned in Taurus and kind of deepening, maybe thinking about what's going on in Gemini, because we'll just barely sunk our toes in it before we start backing again. Neptune is retrograde in Pisces from July 2nd to December the 7th. I think this retrograde in its home sign of Pisces is going to inspire us to have that spiritual introspection and really look and pursue those higher truths that are in us. I think this is a time to pay really, really good attention to our dreams and what's inside of us. There's a lot of inner work going on this year. I'm sure you've gotten that from me talking over and over again about how we can transform, how we can overcome things from the past, how we can move forward, how we can move, just it's healing, it's transforming, it's growing. Is it Shangri-La? No, it's work. But I think it's work where the energy is supporting us to do that work. So it's not going to feel like extremely laborious work. We have Pluto retrograde from May 2nd to October 11th. Like I said, I think it's just doing that little backup to really just make us think about what we got out of that experience and then bring it forth so that we make sure that what we got out of it being in Capricorn, we got our lessons learned, we've collected our knowledge, and we're bringing it forth into this new adventure for the next 20 years. And then Chiron is retrograde from July 26th to December the 29th. And I think when we're talking Chiron, it's going to retrograde in Aries. And so again, it's that deep healing to our sense of self and identity. I think this is a period where we are going within and we are releasing what is not bringing us to our best selves. We're letting it go. All right. And I've come to the end of our journey. Finally. I apologize for the length, but you know me, once I start talking, sometimes it's hard for me to stop. But we've gotten here. We're to the end of what I went through, what I think are the major transits of 2024. And I've tried to reflect as much as I could the wisdom that I think they're going to offer us. As this year starts with this energy and this forward momentum, embrace it, because it's going to slow down and it's going to give us some time as we get to the end to pause and reflect. I have gifted you on this slide. These are links to my gifts for you. I have created the transit at a glance for everything for 2024. I have done some transit guidance. I've made some little bits and pieces of what I thought might benefit you. I went through all of the rising signs and looked at the major aspects that with the outer planets and tried to offer you perhaps maybe a little bit of guidance looking at your horoscope for the year through your rising sign. And I also attached here the 2024 Void of Course Moon from Judith Ryan. Wonderful, wonderful place if you are interested in the moon. And yes, 2024, here we come. All right. So I'm going to throw a link again to our notes in case anybody didn't grab them. So you have them so you can have those gifts for you. If you have any questions or any thoughts, I would love to hear them right now. I can sit here as long as you can, but if you want to leave, feel free. All right. And for of you interested, and these are all up on Meetup currently, these are the events that we have coming. I have one for every month. We have Henry Weingarten coming in January for financial astrology. We have Liv Woodward coming for Pluto talk, Pluto and Aquarius on February 9th. On March 9th, you have me coming to talk about astrology and home design and real estate. And for those that are wondering where that came from, I was interviewed for a newspaper article for the Akron Beacon Journal a couple weeks ago, and it comes out this Thursday on January the 4th. I will share it. And the entire article was me being interviewed about the astrology of home design and real estate. And I thought, you know what? If it's important enough for somebody to call and ask me to give them what I know, it's important enough for me to present to all of you what I know. So that is the March presentation. And then in April, we have the Peace Dealer coming, which I am very excited about, talking to us about how to speak astrology. And you guys can thank Danielle for that. She brought forth to me the Peace Dealer, and I talked to him, and I loved what he had to say. And I said, oh, yes, you need to come and speak. So very, very nice. Yes. So we are here. If anybody has any thoughts, you can bring them forth. If you don't, then I will close this up. But this is where I sit quietly and see if anybody has anything to share. And you are all very welcome. I know you all know how much I love you and how much I love this group. And I'm glad you guys are excited. Carla, yes.
Oh, yeah, I know you said last year sometime you were thinking about doing something with medical astrology. Is that still on the table or no?
It is. I actually just said to my husband today, I said, you know, sweetheart, I think I'm going to have to do that this summer because I'll have time to invest my mind into creating the quality of, you know, information that I can. And I'm thinking it's going to take probably 2 or 3 presentations. So yes, Carla, it is coming. It's going to, I'm guessing, be in June, July, August.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Maureen, do I offer personal readings? Yes. If you wish to contact me, my information's here. You are more than welcome to take a look at it or just email me directly. This is me. And yes, I've had the blessing of looking at many of the charts of those of you in here, and I'm thankful for you sharing them with me because I know how high level the energy is in this space. So. All right, I am going to stop the recording. And like I said, if anybody has anything to say, you feel free. But I want to thank you all.